Laras Perspective. 2686. Terran Calendar. 27 years before. I watched the British woman of Franco-Japanese parentage stride from the door of the parliament of our recently capitulated enemies. She is surrounded by 4 of the most physically imposing humans I've ever seen, not one of them less than 210 centimeters. I suppose, when our army numbers in the hundreds of billions, finding one in a millions isn't too hard. Me and the rest of her retinue fall in behind her, as she passes through the vomitorium and turns to my left, her right, towards her temporary office. As large in stature as the Durasteel-clad soldiers are, they do not compare to the woman's android husband, 230 centimeters tall and, from the sound of his bare footfalls, a few hundred kilos in mass. We reach the door of the newly designated office of the Terran representative, and she snarls, "You four, guard the door," addressing her bodyguards. "Ezra, Zorab, Lamo, inside. Everyone else, piss off and find something to do." The door closes behind us. "Bug sweep, darling," says the woman exhaustedly.
"No bugs detected,"
answers her husband instantly. She slumps onto the chair that had to be brought from our ship after the one provided by the Parliament collapsed under her weight the first time she sat in it. Tilting her head back, she asks, "So, how did I do?"
"You did wonderfully, sweetheart," answers Ezra immediately,
in his flat, serene cadence. She reaches a hand out to one of his and says, "Thank you, darling. You are my rock. But I was really asking these two." Gesturing at me and the Cartvello Tamil man with her other hand.
"My opinion?"
smiles Mudaliar.
"Pitch perfect. No notes."
"Agreed," I concur. She leans her elbows onto the table in front of her, quickly removing them when she hears its groans of protest. "There'll be a lot of people back home who think that we let them off too easy, who think that we should have put a fucking Versailles on their asses," she muses. A punitive peace would foster resentment in the garden border populace. They would feel as if their leaders stabbed them in the back by surrendering, not to mention giving ammunition to anti-death order bigots. We need future generations of garden warders to think their ancestors were wrong to declare war on us, not wrong to sue for peace, I remind her.
Enumerating their various hypocrisies, war crimes, and the many violations of their own laws that they perpetuated serves that end well. Hundreds of trillions of GU citizens, who personally had little to do with the war, suddenly finding their salaries cut in half to pay our war reparations, would very much be counter to it. Let us hope that demanding the most heinous war criminals be remanded to Terran custody to stand trial placates the saber rattlers back home, adds Mudaliar.
"Yes, but I don't know. I feel like we should have got something more from them. Instructions on how to reproduce their more advanced tech, maybe." Mudaliar purses his lips in a joyless smile and shakes his head.
"We just relatively handily defeated them in a war with technology centuries behind theirs. Their tech is not something we can ask them to trust us with yet. We need to build their trust first. It's going to take time. It's going to take..."
"What?" snarls Miyazaki, to whatever poor unfortunate soul is requesting entry. One of the towering guards in their sleek, state-of-the-art Durasteel enters.
"Apologies for the interruption, Mistress Miyazaki. There's a delivery for you. Already being scanned for explosive, biological and chemical agents, etc. It's clean."
"A delivery?" she says, screwing up her face in a mixture of confusion and contempt for a moment, before shifting to appraisal and beckoning wordlessly. The towering man enters the room and stands to one side, revealing a small woman with pink skin, purple tendrils covering her scalp, 3 teal eyes and 3 legs with one too many joints. The girl looks terrified as she walks in, a levitating platform following behind her with a heavy-looking cube, around a meter wide, deep and tall on top. Looking as if she might be about to burst into tears from her fear, the pink-skinned girl holds out a holo towards Miyazaki, though still around 8 meters away, and says, "Could you sign here, please?" "What am I signing for?" asks Miyazaki flatly. This," says the scared delivery girl, gesturing at the glossy cube. Fury flashes across Miyazaki's face, and before she can traumatize the poor girl, I step in. "I think what our representative means is that we weren't expecting a delivery. Would you mind telling us what this is?" I say kindly, smiling, without teeth, down at the girl. It's a data drive," she asks more than tells. "A data drive? That's absurd." With how insanely advanced their computing is, a physical storage device this large would represent several multiples of all the information humanity has ever set to page. "What's on this data drive, sweetie?" I smile, trying not to betray any of my desperate curiosity to her. "It's a compendium of all Galactic Union technologies and science." The room stands in stunned silence for 9 straight seconds, while we all process what the little Xeno girl just said. She shifts uncomfortably, looking at Miyazaki and clearly unwilling to approach her. Shell-shocked, I eventually manage to say, "I can sign for that." Looking relieved, she hands me her holo and a stylus. I scroll out my name in the Ablujidic script of my native Tibetan, my hand then making a second pass on the line, adding the vowel markers. The girl looks thoroughly relieved not to have had to get any closer than she is to the intimidating woman behind the desk in the formal blue dress. I hand the device back to her, and she uses it to direct the platform to unload its cargo. She does not wait to be dismissed, beating a hasty retreat from the room, leaving behind the single most valuable object ever possessed by Terran kind. 2687, Terran calendar. 26 years before. "We need garden welders," growls Miyazaki frustratedly, as we pore over the plans for the new agency we're trying to design. This needs to be more than just the Terran embassy to the GU, and vice versa. It needs to set the tone for all our interactions moving forward. We need qualified garden welders, ready, willing and able to work alongside the Terran staff, helping us build our networks and win over potential allies in the Parliament.
Yes, well, unless you want to kidnap a complement of garden warders to staff it as forced labor, then our choices are open it, with a Terran-dominated staff, and hope we can entice more garden ward employees at a later date, or delay it again, points out a wary Mudaliar.
"Guys," I interject, equally warily, "I think we're past the point of productivity for this evening. How about we call it quits and come back to it with fresh eyes tomorrow?"
"Good idea,"
he answers. The two of us begin getting up, but Miyazaki says, "Wait." We turn to look at her expectantly. "How about we go out tonight? No shop talk, I promise. Just think it might be good for us to have a night to cut loose. Just the 4 of us. 5 if that hot young nurse you're dating wants to come, Zurab." Mudaliar smiles.
"I appreciate the offer, but I really need to sleep. Ring check?"
"Fair enough. Lamo?" I hesitate, considering.
Later.
"Whew! Shots! Shots and merry Miyazaki, as she and I raise small glasses of weak spirits to our lips, in a booth in the Xeno bar, and tip them down our throats. Her android husband mimics the action with an empty glass. She slams her glass onto the table, and releases a sigh as she slumps against the padded seat back. Her expression turns slightly melancholic as she says, "You know, I don't know if I'm the right woman for this job."
"You are," replies her husband instantly, almost displaying an emotion for a second there. "The fact that you were appointed above all other potential candidates should prove your fitness for the role. They could have chosen anyone, and they chose you."
"I agree with your husband, but what makes you say that, John?" I query. "I don't know," she grumbles. "I sort of feel like I was chosen on the strength of my reputation, and my parents' reputation for ferocity. But the thing is, while my mum and my shit stain of a father could give a fiery speech, they also had all the other skills you need to be a diplomat as well. I feel like I've got one skill and it's scaring people."
"That's why I'm here, sweetheart,"
smiles Ezra serenely.
"You're the stick and I'm the carrot."
"Thank you, darling. It's just, much as I hate to give that man the credit, difficult not to think that my father would have done a better job if he managed to make it here without getting his ship blasted out of the sky. While I have far more sense than to ever say it, it's absolutely apparent that the husband John Blitz Miyazaki commissioned for herself is, in all ways, the polar opposite of the late father she despises. I only ever knew him by his reputation, but where her father was a passionate firebrand, Ezra is calm, measured, and tranquil. While her father was a gorgeous heartthrob who became a handsome silver fox in his later life, her husband, while certainly not ugly, is definitely much plainer in his looks. Where her father famously favoured flamboyant modern dress, her husband's wardrobe looks straight out of a Unification-era vid in its conservativeness. Where her father had a slight frame and a diminutive stature, her husband is tall and solidly built. And where Yuki Blizzard Miyazaki famously left his wife, Charlotte Guer Doiville, after a scandalous extramarital affair with Tombe Breeze Upash, another obviously married diplomat no less, in a move that would have sunk the career of anyone else in his line of work, Ezra certainly seems as if he only has eyes for her. Several times she has expressed the thought that raising her half-sister Emiko to be a decent person is the only good thing that man ever did. My rumination on that is cut short before I can answer her imposter syndrome, when she answers, "You ever considered the diplomat track, Lamo?" I give a rueful smile as I answer, "I'd need a spouse for that, Gian." Her eyebrows raise in surprise as she says, "Oh, you're ace. I didn't realize." I chuckle and shake my head. "Not ace, just 42 with crow's feet." I gesture to the corners of my eyes. I feel like if I were going to meet Mr. Right, it would have happened by now. "Bah," she dismisses, letting out her francophone sigh for a second. "None of this is too old to find love, tribe. You're still a stunner, not to mention an intelligent, vibrant woman with a fantastic personality. Plus, we're this close to cracking regen. Pretty soon, 42 will be the new 25, along with every other age over 25. You've got all the time in the world. It'd be really great to be able to hand this job off to you or Zorab. Either of you would do better than me, I'm sure. I could go back to Earth, safe in the knowledge that things were being taken care of." "Ma'am?" I lean forward and reassuringly pat her wrist. "I promise you, you are the best person for the job. Certainly at the moment, anyway. Please grace us with your presence for a few more years at least." She chuckles. "How about you get the next round and we'll make a toast of it?" I smile back. "No problem. But I don't think we'll be allowed any more of these." I gesture to the one per customer shot glasses. "Vinduin ale, 900 milliliters, says the woman immediately.
"I will take an empty 900 milliliter glass,"
states her husband. Got it, I smile. Don't drink any until Ezra can run chem analysis on it. Don't want to get drugged, she reminds me seriously. I promise I won't, I chuckle, walking away. Oh, and watch him pour. Make sure he doesn't spit in it or anything, she adds, a little louder than she needs to, but not loud enough that I think the large, porcine Xeno barman will have heard her. I cross the crowded bar and step to the counter. 2 Vingira nails and an empty glass, please. 900 meters all. Pretty sure you have our waivers for it already, I smile with closed lips, up at the orange Xeno with the pig-like face. He oinks an acknowledgement and starts pouring. As I watch him, I notice myself being noticed by a Xeno at the far end of the bar. I don't turn to look but keep track of him in my periphery, while my foveal focus rests squarely on the drinks being drawn. He stands. Fuck, I whisper to myself. There's one of 2 reasons a Xeno is likely to be approaching me. Either he's going to angrily vent at me about how I'm a monster and cause him to lose X number of loved ones in the war, or he's about to test the rumors about human promiscuity. I'm not particularly in the mood for either, but I really hope it's the latter. I don't know that I would trust the proprietor to take my side if one of his Garden World patrons gets belligerent. As the man approaches, he occupies more and more of my attention to the point that, even though I'm looking right at them, I wouldn't necessarily see if our drinks were tampered with. Good thing I've got a walking laboratory back at my table. The gigantic man has now made it to within a meter of me on my left and stands, looming over me. Despite the fact that I know if push came to shove, I could probably put his head clear through the countertop without too much trouble, it's still uncomfortable to have such a large person so close. The first words the man speaks catch me completely off guard.
It's been a while, Dr. Yesh. I'm very glad to see you again,
comes a warm, familiar voice, speaking gangsterly accented Tibetan, and sounding a bit like a human with a blocked nose. My head whips left and up, my eyes resting upon a very recognizable patch of smooth, flat, periwinkle-colored skin between 2 large orange eyes. I haven't seen this man since I was transferred to forward operations 4 years ago. My joy is so immediate and genuine that I momentarily forget to restrain my smile, so as not to be perceived as making an aggressive display. He doesn't flinch at the brief flash of my teeth I involuntarily gave him. Well, 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 well. If it isn't my favorite prisoner of war. What a pleasant surprise, Wing Commander, I say, my voice joyful. Then my face falls, as I notice the dark blue bruise across his right eye. What's happened to your eye, Ong? I ask, ready to demand the name and badge number of whatever guard it was that did that to him, then remembering that we're no longer on Gansri. He casts his eyes down and shamefully confesses,
It's not Ong anymore, and it's not Wing Commander either. I'm just Nungong now.
It takes a second before the pieces click together for me. I gasp as I realize, you were expelled from your tribe? He answers with a doleful Terran nod. Because you defected?
Just got released here yesterday. Went to my embassy, found my tribal representative. He punched me, told me not to come back to Goldenung, and here I am.
He gestures around the bar,
drowning my sorrows.
That's terrible. Oh, Nongnagong, I'm so sorry.
It's fine, he lies. I've got some pre-war savings to live on for the moment. Should also be due 2 years' salary from the GU military, but who knows when or if I'll ever see that, given how my service ended. They don't count time spent as a POW to be time you served? I query. He passed through his list before answering. They do not, no. Certainly not when you became a POW by treason.
Is there anything I can do? I offer pathetically. He gives a joyless curl of his lips and answers,
Sweet of you to offer, but there's really nothing to be done. Anyway, it was nice seeing you.
And turns to walk away. Wait, I say, a little more desperately than I mean to. He turns back, one of his dark blue eyebrows raised quizzically. How would you like a job?
A job?
He frowns.
A job doing what?
Let me buy you a drink and we can tell you all about it at my table.